He is Major, the Honorable Myron Meredith, Charles informed her, and I am in his black books already. Why? Orisa inquired. And even if he is a major, why has he got authority over you? Because he is not an ordinary major. Charles answered. He has a kind of roving commission. If you ask me, he is a secret intelligence or something of the sort. Anyway, he is quite a big wig in India. And why should you be in his black books? Orisa inquired, with an almost fierce note in her voice. I have been in a spot of trouble already, Charles admitted. What sort of trouble? You are too inquisitive, but I do not mind telling you she was very pretty. Oh, a woman? Isn't it always a woman? Charles demanded. Why should that concern Major Meredith? Only because she happened to be a brother officer's wife. He spoke at some length on the honor of the regiment, our prestige in India, and all that sort of thing. Charles was a fair Fane, with blue eyes and fair curly hair, which combined with handsome features make him irresistible to women. Orisa, on the other hand, resembled her Spanish ancestress. She had long dark hair with blue lights in it, which grew in a small widow's peak on her oval forehead. Her eyes were enormous and seemed at times, when she was worried or angry, almost purple in their depth. Her skin was like a Mongolian blossom. She was also small boned and had a grace that was almost indescribable. Anything that Orisa wore seems to mold itself to her exquisite figure and to achieve an elegance which made other women in her company appear clumsy and overdressed. Now, looking at her seated on the hearth rug, her small head shining in the light from the flames and her skin almost dazzlingly, while against the red of her gown, her brother said, I have to do something about you, Orisa. I'm waiting to hear your suggestions. She answered, we must have some relations. Not many, Orisa replied, and those there are, Papa, or rather she, has quarreled with. They never come near us. If only Mamma's parents were not dead. Or if Uncle Henry were in England? Orisa sighed. Uncle Henry! Charles exclaimed. That, of course, is the solution. What do you mean? You must go to him. After all, he is a bachelor. You should make yourself useful, and I believe he would like to have you with him. Do you mean in India? Orisa asked incredulously. Of course, Charles replied. He saw the sudden light which seemed to illuminate her whole face. Oh, Charles, if only I could. Why not? He asked. Do you really think that Uncle Henry would let me live with him? I have only just thought of it this moment, Charles admitted. But I see no reason. Why not? He has always been fond of you. He always asks if I have heard from you. And now you are grown up, it would be quite different from saddling him with a child. To be in India again would be a heaven, Orisa said, almost beneath her breath. I dream of it every night. Does it really mean so much to you? Charles asked curiously. It's the only home I have ever known, Orisa answered, and I was happy, unbelievably happy, until Mama died. Then somehow we must get you to Uncle Henry. Let me see. He was in Delhi when I left, and the regiment is likely to be there for another month or so. Orisa's eyes were shining as she said, "But I will have to write to him. It will take some time to get a reply. What shall I do in the meantime?" Charles didn't answer for a moment, and Orisa knew he was thinking. Then he said, "I have an idea." "What is it?" "To tell the truth, I was wondering just now how I was going to raise your fear. I'm badly dipped at the moment." "Pretty ladies are, I understand, very expensive." Orisa teased. "You are right there," Charles confessed. "So, quite frankly, although I suppose I could borrow it from somewhere, it would be very difficult unless you agree to another suggestion." "What is that?" Orisa asked. "I was in the office this morning taking instruction about our classes for tomorrow when General Sir Arthur Critchley came in. He is the general officer commanding Bombay." Orisa didn't speak, but her eyes were watching her brother's face intently. The general asked if he knew any officers' wives who were traveling out on the Dorunda. "No, sir," the adjutant answered. "I have to find someone," the general went on, "who will look after my small grandson during the voyage. A cousin was coming with us, but unfortunately, she has had an accident and cancelled her trip at the last moment." "Sorry to hear that, sir." "It's a cursed nonsense. I can't expect my wife to be responsible for a child of 5 during the whole voyage. It would be too much for her. And there is no much point in taking out a nanny when my daughter in law has an ayah waiting in Bombay." "No, sir, I can see that. Perhaps you had better got onto the shipping line for me. See if there is a lady traveling to India who would look after the child in return for her first class fare. I'm quite willing to pay that. One way, of course." "I understand, sir." Charles stopped speaking. Orisa looked at him and exclaimed excitedly, "And you think I might go?" "But supposing they have found someone already?" "They will not have done that," Charles answered. "How do you know?" Her brother grinned at her. "The adjutant told me to find Hughes, who is a newly joined lieutenant, and tell him to get on to the shipping line. As I was in a hurry, I forgot all about it." "Oh, Charles!" Orisa exclaimed. "This is just like you." "If you ask me, it's a fate," Charles said positively. "It does seem like it. And how are you going to introduce me?" Charles thought for a moment. "I can tell you one thing. I know Lady Critchley. She will not want to chaperon a young unmarried girl. She has always set her face against it, even in Bombay. She thinks they are nonsense, hanging around the subalterns and making disparaging remarks about those who come out to India merely with the hope of getting married." Orisa looked dismayed. "Then she will not want me." "Not if she thinks you are unmarried." Orisa looked at him quickly. "You mean I could pretend to be married?" she questioned. "Why not? After all, if people know who are you, they will think it very strange that you are going to India alone. They would certainly expect you to have a chaperone on the voyage, and there would be a lot of explaining to do." He smiled. "If you simply turn up as Mrs. Something or other, take charge of the child, who is going to argue or ask questions?" "No, of course not." "Oh, Charles, you are brilliant." "I always thought I had a brain hidden away somewhere," her brother said modestly. As a matter of fact, I'm quite certain my report on the scores will be as good, if not better, than the others get. I'm sure you will top them all. Now, what am I to do? First of all, we have to find you a name and a wedding ring. I have Mama ring. And who is my husband supposed to be? Say he's in the East India Company. That covers a pretty wild field. And you should call yourself something quite ordinary, like Smith or Brown. I refuse. I couldn't bear to have such an uninteresting name. Well, anything but Fane. Then I will be Lane, Mrs. Lane.